This is K.O.P.A,
The roar, the pride,
brothers in boots.
we stood side by side. We built
The
a
league,
we built a name. We played for love, not fortune or fame.
this is K.O.P.A.
Our hearts are song, the spirit leaves, it's never gone.
Kalimera, kalispera. Welcome to a special edition of This is Goba. Now, you know who I am, but my guest is a legend. And I'd say legend, not just in football, but in the K.O.P.A League. It's none other than Les Ferdinand. Mr. Ferdinand, how are you, young man?
Yeah, very good, Stel. How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm good, and thank you for joining me. It's an absolute privilege, and yeah, thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to this this conversation, mate.
Thanks for having me on. I heard you've been going
No,
for. It's taken me ages to get on here. Do you know what I mean?
nah, it's only been a couple of weeks. Come on, the moment we had this conversation, you said, "Yeah, I'm doing it," so
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fun. I appreciate it. But before we start, have you actually ever spoken about the K.O.P.A League in public before?
All right. When you say in public, yeah, a couple of people have asked me. I've never spoken about it on a podcast, but I've always, whenever I talk about my career and where it all started and all that, I always mention the K.O.P.A League. You know, I played in Greek Cypriot League when I was, but when I was playing non-league football. I used to do it on a Sunday, so I have mentioned it, but never gone into to great detail about it.
Oh, so this is the first time. Okay. I'm happy about this. Very happy about this.
A world exclusive.
So, pardon?
A world exclusive.
There you go. Okay, so let's start from the beginning because let's talk about your upbringing because you're born in Acton, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I was born in. For some reason, I don't. This has followed me all my life. That I was born in Acton. I wasn't. I was born in Ladbroke Grove, West London.
Oh, okay.
And basically, I went to school. I went to a school near Acton, quite close to Acton. And for some reason, because I went to that school, everyone assumes that I grew up and was born in Acton, but I wasn't. I was born sort of like quite a few miles away from Acton. I was born in Ladbroke Grove.
You need to change your Wikipedia then. You need to contact them, get them to change it for sure. So, how did you end up in the K.O.P.A League? Because I'm assuming you were around a lot of Greek Cypriots at the time when you were growing up.
No, it's really weird. I wasn't actually around. I sort of came from Ladbroke Grove, and I played non-league football for a team called Southall back in the day. Before I went on to Hayes and went to Q.P.A, I played for Southall, and there was a couple of guys who played for Southall who played in the K.O.P.A League before me. A guy called Roland Pierre, Randy Richmond. There were a couple of guys that had played in that league, and we'd play on a Saturday. And then I think it was Roland who said to me, "What are you doing on the Sunday?" And I was like, "No, not like." He goes, "Do you want to come play for a team?" He said, "It's a real cool atmosphere. You know, we play." At the time, they played at Market Road. They played at White Hart Lane. Some of it was AstroTurf, some of it was grass. And he said, "We just have a nice laugh, and then afterwards you go back to the clubhouse, and which was just, I'm trying to remember now. Was it Lordship Lane? Just off of
Lordship Lane, yeah.
There was you go back there and you have a bit of food, a few drinks, and just have a chilled afternoon. And so I went down and played in one of the games, and it was always when I met the guys at the time, there was a guy called George who was running Holloway Sports shop.
I think I've heard something along the lines of if you you get a kit and then you'd have to sign for his club or something like that.
that weren't the case. It was like he had the sports shop. And my mate Roland took me down there. It was just on the Holloway Road, just off the Seven Sisters Road. It was actually on. Took me down there, met them, and they talked about me coming and playing in the league, and that's what I did. I came and I played for Achna, and went down and played, and sort of like made friends from there. Once I joined the team, obviously it was mainly Greek guys playing. And I ended up playing in the league and playing against all the different sides in that league.
So roughly how old were you at the time?
So I would have been about 16, 17.
16, 17. Okay, okay. Because if I'm not mistaken, you went from school to playing at, was it the Viking Sports? I'm guessing this is in between that, right?
Yeah, so I went straight from school. So no, while I was at school, I played for Viking Sport.
Right.
So I would have been about 15, sort of like, I got into the youth team at Viking Sports, and that sort of like started my journey off in sort of like non-league football, if you like.
Right, right. Okay. So you've gone to Achna and you're playing in the K.O.P.A League. What's the first thing that stood out for you when you first started going to the pitch?
I think it was probably one of the first games I played was on AstroTurf. And I was always wondering how that was going to be on my joints, because, you know, nowadays, you go to an AstroTurf and it's a 4G.
Yeah.
You know, back then it was probably minus 4G that we were playing on.
Minus 4G, brilliant.
It was tough on the limbs and all that, and then you always wondered how it was going to affect you going back playing on grass and stuff like that. And then obviously, playing a new group of guys, and you know, I suppose the denomination that I'd never sort of like played with before. So, you know, I was playing with Greek guys I'd never sort of like met before, and so it was. It was very competitive in terms of who you were playing against, but it was quite a family affair, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've heard lots of stories that back then there were crowds of hundreds, 200 people showing up because it was a family atmosphere and everyone knew each other. Is that the vibe that you got?
Yeah, definitely. I know. Although you played against a team that was a rival, there was lots of friends that were playing against each other. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? It was like, so it was you tackle someone, and not so much me, but if one of the boys tackled someone and it was one of their mates, you know, they'd be lifting them off the floor and saying sorry and stuff like that. Whereas in the past, you know, some of the games I played with, you tackle someone and you leave them where they are.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. So was it a big learning curve for you?
It was an important part of my football development. You know, it was competitive, but it was fun as well. And so, you know, when I look back through my career and where it ended up, all the things I did before were just parts of getting me to where I needed to be. So, you know, going from playing for Viking Sport, and then I actually joined Achna when I was playing for Southall, and so that was just part of the journey. Do you know what I mean? It just kept me competitive. It kept me playing football. It kept me in an environment where I was never going to get myself in trouble. I was just doing the things that I enjoyed, which was playing football.
So in terms of the quality or the standard of the league, what was it like then? I mean, you're saying to me that you were very, very young. So I'm assuming that it was physical. There were a lot of demands and the surfaces weren't particularly great either. But yeah, the quality, what would you say about it?
I mean, it was a step below the non-league games that I was playing for Southall. You know, there was, and I suppose it was because it was kind of like a family. When I say a family affair, because it was mainly made up. It was majority made up. It was a Greek league, so it was predominantly Greek players. So they weren't always great players. They were friends of friends playing. And so there were older men playing. There were younger guys playing. So there was a real mixture. It was very competitive. I think that, you know, the top 3 or 4 teams could easily play in a non-league division without a shadow of a doubt. And then after that, it was just like, you know, I mean, family and friends that were playing in the team and in the different teams. But it was when you came up against the big teams, it was always very, very competitive, and, you know, a lot of shouting, a lot of hollering, and then you came together and had a drink and some Greek food.
Yeah, the Greek and Cypriot temperament is fantastic. Must admit.
Yeah.
Were there any names that stood out for you, or any players that you remember playing against that were really good or difficult to play against?
I can't remember. I just remember the boys in my team, like George. There was Panny, who had a place, a shop on Fonthill Road. So sometimes we'd go and plot up in there during the week and stuff like that. Yeah, we had some decent players in our team. But in terms of players that I played against, there was no one that I can remember now that I went, yeah, do you know what? Wow, that was tough. That was hard. It was, probably did have hard, tough games, but back then, we're talking, Jesus, 40 years ago now.
Oh, it's not that long ago. Not long ago. What about the actual teams then? Because I know Isle were quite dominant. There's been other clubs that have done really, really well in the K.O.P.A League over the years that really stood out. I mean, even like Salamina is still going right now. Any particular teams?
Yeah, was there one called Ammonia as well?
On one here,
yeah. Yeah, they was always a tough team, and it's funny. Like there was a couple of guys that I kind of like knew that played for that team, and it was always one of the teams that won the league. It was always one of the teams that were up there. It was like everyone wanted to beat Ammonia at the time.
And
really
I'm assuming there was some quite memorable moments as well, whether it be with supporters or whether it be with teammates, opponents.
there was always, you know what? There was always rivalry. Now, now I'm thinking back. There was always rivalry within in our own team, not against opponents, but in our own, where players wanted to play in certain positions. And you know what? I was having this discussion with Joe Cole the other day, and we were talking about when we sort of like retired, and I said, but I had this at the beginning of my career. You go and play for teams, and they go, "No, I'm playing in this position because that's where blah blah Liam Brady plays, or that's where that one plays, and I'm playing like that today." You know what I mean? I'm thinking, you are so far away from Liam Brady, but yet you want to play. And if he's not playing in Liam Brady's position, he's going home. He's not even taking part. Not playing. So yeah, there was a few of those guys in our team that sort of like felt they were certain players, and because they felt they were like the players that they admired, they needed to play in that position.
Did you get pushed around positions as well, or did you stick to one?
I was a centre forward, so that's just where I played, and scored goals. And so I think when you score goals, people don't push you around in positions; they just let you play where you need to play.
Okay. And
if you're scoring the goals.
Well, exactly. And do you remember your first goal for the club?
Cool. I don't. It would have been, but I think it was at Market Road, if I can remember correctly. It was at Market Road, and I remember it was right. It was quite on the day we got there, because as you know, you turn up on any given day, and Market Road had 2 or 3 pitches. So it was always lively. There was always more than one game going on. So there was always lots of people about. And there was loads of people watching our game as well. So I remember scoring at Market Road, and I'm sure that was the first goal I scored for Achna.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, it's been an incredible journey us doing this podcast, because I was never involved in the K.O.P.A League, and the reason why I've started this, and people are going to say, "Oh, you're same story again, still," it's because I'm trying to educate myself more about it, because I think it's a very important part of our community. So, for you as a non-Greek Cypriot, what was it like for you experiencing everything?
I think one of the things I remember, it was a real togetherness, and like I said, you played against these guys, were playing against each other, and while we were on the pitch, they were rivals, but you knew they were friends. But no matter what field that you are in, whenever you're playing, football is competitive, and you want to win. So it doesn't matter that you got friends on the other side. But I always remember that it was community. It was a community coming together, built up this league, and as much as it was competitive, there was a real nice feel about it. And like I said, part of the journey of playing in the league and enjoying the games on a Sunday, I think I enjoyed the after effects of it even more, because it wasn't just jump in your car and go home. No, we all jumped in the car and we went to the centre, the Clubhouse, where all the other teams would turn up, and you'd have a few drinks, there was always food on, you know what I mean? You would have kebabs, we'd have all sorts of things. There was one thing that we used to have, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a vegetarian thing, and you put lemon on it. It was just
koubes.
That's it. That's exactly what it was. Koubes.
That's it.
And I remember more than anything else, because I was like, wow, what's this? First time I had it, and it was fantastic. And I always used to look forward to going after the game and just spending the afternoon just having a few drinks and having a bite to eat and having a laugh and a joke after the football, and that's what it was all about.
Haven't you had koubes since?
Do you know what? I haven't, because I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
I've not had it since, and I eat Greek food all the time.
When we meet up, I'm going to bring you some. Don't worry about it.
Okay,
don't worry about it. I'll bring you some of the top koubes, the best ones, Les. The best. By the way, did they give you a nickname? Did they give you any? Because who is a rare this, rare Malaga or whatever? Are they going to be calling you different things?
No, my name was Ferdy. They all just called me Ferdy. That's why I came on here as Ferdy today, because that's what they used
to Was it with an accent though? Was it with an accent? Was it
of course, yeah, it did have an accent, yeah, for
sure. So what about characters though? Were there any specific people that you had a good relationship with, or any names that stood out? I'm sure there are loads.
Yeah, I played up front with a kid called George. Oh, geez. And he was always saying that he was better than me. Even when I turned professional, I used to speak to him all the time, every now and again, and he would say he was better than me, like, and we used to have a laugh and a joke about it. But there was characters in the team, and George was. I'm going to remember his second name by the time we finished this. He was always having a go. He was the chirpy one. He was the one that would have a go at everybody in the team. And everyone used to go, George, you're not that good. So shut your mouth. Like, I remember he would go on and on and on and on. I've got this fella's name in my head called George Goody. And I know it wasn't him, because George Goody was a guy at Hayes when I was there. But George's name will come back. His second name will come back to me. I'll remember by the time we finish this podcast. When you get to the age I am, you can't don't remember.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, the thing is, when this gets released, you probably get people in the comments saying, "I remember him. I know this guy. This guy. He might even, if he's still around, then he might even get in touch. You never know. So, do you still keep in contact with people that you played with or against, or no?
No, I haven't. I haven't sort of like. I did when I sort of first got into the professional game, like this George I said to you, I used to speak to him every now and again, and then I would see people that said to me, who knew George and would say, and then they'd get him on the phone and we'd have a chat and blah 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 blah. But since then, that was years ago, and I understand at one stage he was pretty ill, so I'm not sure if he's still with us at the moment. But I do remember he was pretty ill. And I spoke to him on the phone one of the times. Someone said to me, Les, he's not that well, and he got him on the phone and we had a chat. And this was quite a few years ago, and I've not heard anything since.
So the K.O.P.A League isn't around anymore, unfortunately, but there are teams that are dotted around the Barnet League. Do you think that the traditional Sunday league, I don't know, process or the way that things are done at Sunday at grassroots level is on the way out?
I'd hate to think so, because like I said, this wasn't just about football. This was about a community coming together, and it's sad to hear that the league is no longer. And I'd hate to think that Sunday football is on its way out, because it was so important to a lot of people. Not just the Greek League. There's loads of my friends that used to play the Sunday football, and the only reason I don't really go and watch it anymore is because none of my friends are playing. I used to go and watch my friends, and I used to have a right laugh on a Sunday. And it was again, it was about community. It was about people coming together for a common cause, a common goal, and that was to play football. And sometimes it was the only time of the week that you got to catch up, because people get on with their busy lives. They got families and stuff like that. But that Sunday football brought them all together to have a good time. So it'd be sad to think that it's dying out. I just think from my perspective, the only reason like I said, I don't know too much about it is because my mates don't play in it anymore. My mates have gotten past the age of playing in that league. But I'd still like to think that grassroots football on a Sunday is still about.
Well, my co-host Mike, who unfortunately can't make it today, he asked a question. He says, Sunday league football is expensive. Hiring pitches can cost 200 quid an hour for a 4G.
Wow.
Should the FA help here?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And that's, I mean, I know a lot of clubs, you know, I remember playing on Hackney Marshes with the Goba, in the Goba League. And on any given Sunday, there was like, it seemed like there was 100 games going on, you know, and obviously it wasn't that expensive to hire a pitch back then. The pitches weren't weren't good enough to be hired out for £200. But if that's what's going on at the moment, then yes, surely the FA need to jump in. And I keep hearing the FA and PFA and all these people talking about grassroots football and what they're putting back into it. But if that's what it's costing people, then you know we need to sort of like I went on a campaign a little while ago to save a pitch in sort of like North London, and they managed to do it. Just because it was a place where loads of kids played on a Sunday and during the week, and some nice affluent apartments around it, but you had this pitch dotted in the middle and they were trying to get rid of it, but luckily we were able to save it, and the kids can still play and the games go on. But yeah, most of the pitches are now 4G, and I know that comes at an expense, but we need to keep Sunday league football going, you know, otherwise where does the next Jamie Vardy come from? Where does the next Stuart Pearce, Ian Wright, you know, Les Ferdinand, where do they, you know, that's where we came from. We came out of playing Sunday league football. Speaking
of non-league football, obviously it's important for the youth, for the evolution of football in general, I believe anyway. You do, for example, in Brazil, you've got the street footballers, and various other countries, you have people that play football in villages, and we've got Sunday league football. So do you think academy football is kind of killing Sunday league? Because you've got a whole load of academies in England now that are just mopping up all the best youngsters.
Yeah, no, I mean, academy football's always been there. What you do have now is companies who have gone out and said, right, this is, and they call themselves an academy. And what they do, they try to get a group of elite players together. I say elite players, but they get a band of players together. And what they do, they promise these players that they're able to get them trials here, there, and everywhere. And they go under the guise of academy football. Academy football's always been there. It's just taken on a bit of a different guise. And parents are paying into these academies because they feel that their kids will get a better opportunity to get looked at by a professional club. And so in terms of killing it, because these organisations go under the pseudonym of academies, it seems like there's multiple academies all over the place because there's so many people that have jumped onto the bandwagon of doing these so-called academy type situations to be able to give kids an opportunity to perhaps train at a professional club. That's diluting what you're talking about and saying like, okay, there's so many academies about now, what's happening to grassroots? It's still grassroots football. They're just trying to put a professional kind of like angle to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, quite a few of them are franchise as well. So like, I know there's a Juventus Academy in Cyprus and there's a Liverpool one in Cyprus as well. And it's like, well, you've just bought the naming rights to it. There's no direct link there. It's just, you got the name.
Exactly what it is, and what these academies do, they go to the clubs and say, right, if we can use your name, obviously, if we sort of like get some young players that are good enough, we'll always push them in your direction. The ones that we feel are good enough for Liverpool or Juventus or whatever club it is, we'll push them in your direction. So, as I said, they go under the name of academy, but not really academies as what you know an academy is at a professional football club.
Brilliant. Well, let's go back to the K.O.P.A League, and there's something you mentioned about the Clubhouse. Is that the one in Wood Green?
Yeah,
The one.
Yeah, just off Lord. It was Lordship Lane. It's just off Lordship Lane.
Yeah, so it's Palmer's Greenways. So it's opposite where the old Nightingale pub used to be.
That's it. Yeah.
But what other memories do you remember about those evenings or afternoons that you spent there?
It was just full of, like I said, it was just full of fun. You go there after a game, you in your separate cars, you go there and, you sat down and you just chilled. You spoke about the game, where you went right, where you went wrong. Hopefully you've won the game, so you're celebrating. If you hadn't won the game, you still went there and commiserated by eating and having a few drinks. And
did you become immersed with the Greek Cypriot culture? Were you invited to weddings and christenings, all that kind of stuff?
I got invited to a couple of weddings, but yeah, got immersed in what was going on in the culture. I would say when I went to Turkey and played out in Beşiktaş, I kind of like understood a bit of what the culture was all about, because I'd spent time with these guys at Achna at the time.
And did you learn any Greek words?
Yeah, a lot of them would be the ones I learned would be bad words, the swear words, which I'm not going to repeat on your podcast.
You can, it's fine. I've said worse. It's fine.
But yeah, yeah, there was a few of the words that was meted out quite a few times.
There's probably going to be someone on the edge of their seat waiting for Les Ferdinand to say Malaga. Not going to happen.
Malaga was mentioned quite a lot of times while I was playing. Yeah, that's
amazing. Because I speak to Jason Puncheon quite regularly, and he's been in Cyprus for many years now, about 6 or 7 years, playing and coaching, and he knows everything. Like, I mean, he grown up with Greeks anyway in Cypriot, so he's very similar. It's like Punch knows the swear words, Les knows the swear words, everyone knows the Greek swear words. Going to school in North London as well, all the non-Cypriots knew the Greek swear words. They never learned to say good morning. It's always Malaga and all the other words as well. So were you, this sounds like a really strange question, but were you seen as like a foreigner when you were playing in the K.O.P.A League? Because obviously everyone was the same background.
Yeah, because I think back in the day you was only allowed, I think it was 3 foreign players in your team.
Well, I only found out last week that it was a gentleman's agreement. It wasn't like written within the rules.
Oh, right. So I was always under the understanding that you could only have 3 non-Greeks in your team, in any one team, at any one time. So I thought it was a written rule. I didn't realise it was a gentleman's agreement, but that was my understanding. So yeah, I suppose because you weren't Greek, you was one of the 3 that was allowed, and so yeah, I suppose foreigner would be the word that you would use for it.
Well, the thing is, one of our guests last week, Jack, was part of the Goba committee, and he told us a lot of interesting things, in the sense that one of the clubs within Goba accused the league of being racist because of this rule, even though it wasn't a written rule. It was a gentleman's agreement between all the teams back in the day.
Yeah, that's nuts. Because, like I said, it felt like you've just enlightened me to something today. Because, as I said, I thought it was a written rule that you was only allowed because if you remember back in the day in sort of like Italy, in all in Europe, there was only ever allowed 3 foreign players in any one team. Do you know what I mean? So I just thought that was the rule, because of where it was, and not because it was racist. I just thought it was the rule for sort of like, certain leagues and what they did in football at that time.
Yeah, and even if it was a rule, it would have made sense, because that was what was being done at the time. So it's nothing different. But as the league progressed, I mean, as I said, I wasn't part of it, but I've heard stories about how players were being paid and how certain things were being done. And you're hearing stories at the tail end of the league and how it kind of just decimated and disappeared. And you're thinking, it's such a shame, because, back when you were playing, even before when it started in 1975, you're hearing about tens of thousands of people. I say tens of thousands of people per game, but I'm talking about in general that
Yeah.
followed this league, and it's just like it just disappeared like that, and it's sad. I think it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's kind of like in terms of how society has gone and the interest that perhaps was in football back then is very, very different to now. You know, kids coming up, do they attend Sunday football in the way that we did? Would they go and watch it in the way that we did? Do you know what I mean? I'm not quite sure. There's so many other distractions for them nowadays that where, you know, when we played, you did have a lot of people coming out on a Sunday to watch. I'm not sure that, you know, as time has developed, that you'd still get that level of support for it. I'm not sure. Maybe that's why. Well, things disbanded because people lose interest in it.
Yeah.
People lose interest, and that must have been what the situation was. They were struggling to get the players to come out and play on a regular basis, and if that happens, then obviously you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that there were so many factors that led to the league's demise, and if I
Right.
made the list of all the alleged reasons, then I could go on all day, really. But to be fair, and again, I don't mean to generalize, but I follow the Cypriot League in Cyprus, and if the things that go on out there went on within the K.O.P.A League, it's no surprise.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't be a surprise at all. But it is what it is, and this is why we do this podcast, because people want to talk about it. I'm actually quite surprised with the amount of positive comments we've received since starting this podcast, and having you on has been an absolute pleasure, Les. I mean, before we wrap it up, do you have any messages for the people that you played with or against, or people within the Goba League community that obviously would love to hear you say something about it?
Yeah, no, just you know, it's been a long time, and like I said, it was an important part of my football development. And I made a few friends along the way while I was there, and you know, as I said, as life sort of like goes on, you go your separate ways, and you don't tend to see people. And I just like all the guys that I played with are doing well and they're okay. You know, it was a really important time in my life, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing in the league with the guys, and I just hope every single one of them is doing okay. Even George,
Fantastic.
who run the Holloway Sports.
Holloway Sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because my daughter for a period lived on on Seven Sisters Road.
Okay.
Years back, she moved into the apartments. I couldn't really go and visit because it was directly opposite Arsenal. When you looked out of a window, you saw the Arsenal, so it was really difficult for me to go and visit her. Right. So, and most of the boys in the team supported Arsenal at the time, so yeah, it was difficult. So yeah, I just hope, and you know, obviously Holloway Sports is gone now, so I just hope all those guys are doing well.
Amazing. Well, Les, thank you so much for doing this. Can I put you on the spot with one question here?
Put me on the spot. One question.
Right. Okay. So obviously you've made this appearance now, and people are going to be very excited. But I know people are going to get at me saying, "Oh, you should have asked this. You should have asked that." Would it be possible for you to come back on another edition, maybe not now, obviously, but in a few months or whatever it is, whenever you're available, and have a few other people on to ask you questions or just to talk about the league in general, maybe even some of your former teammates?
Yeah, of course. No, that'd be no problem at all.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, boys,
it'd be nice to hear from some of those guys that I played with. You know, I mean, it'd be really good if they see this and we could have a conversation.
I'm sure they will be up for it. I'm sure they'll be up for it. Brilliant. Well, boys and girls, Les Ferdinand, honestly, thank you very much. We'll be back very, very soon. Take care.